Wow. Just finished an interview with Rose and Marios about their new programme, Old Hand New Tricks, coming out this Wednesday. It was really interesting to learn lots of new things that they've learned and their journey that they've told me. Have a look at our interview.
Hello. How are you both? Good, thanks, really well. Wow, looking forward to Wednesday with the programme coming out. Yes, really excited. I'm really looking forward to see the response, really. Yeah, looking forward to the people's responses. Me too. I'm really excited to see what people's views are going to be because, that idea of kind of elderly people, is it too late for them to learn sign language, or is it never too late to learn? Can't wait to see people's reactions. So, Rose, let me just ask you a question to start with. I'm just wondering, thus far, obviously, there's been lots of changes for you. You won Strictly, and how's life changed for you during that time? Wow, I've been really, really busy, but I do feel good, and I think I have to grab the opportunities and grab this moment to make this documentary to really spread awareness about the deaf community and put that on TV. And I think that's really exciting for me. I think that, I feel like I'm being really proactive now and I'm ready. That's really interesting because, I can see that you've been making a real huge effort for the deaf community and campaigning about BSL. And I'm thinking about you, Marius. Obviously, you set up your own business, Able Sign, teaching BSL. And do you feel that because you can see there's more demand out there and people want to learn BSL, is that why you've kind of set up the company? Well, I wanted to set up Able Sign because I just wanted to really encourage hearing people to learn sign language. And so there was more growth of sign language throughout. Because I think we know there's lots of barriers for deaf people, and I've seen that personally. And that's why I established Able Sign and looking at other companies so they would know how to adjust and how to work with deaf people, how to communicate with deaf people, deliver deaf awareness so they understand more about our culture and really to expand that knowledge. That's really the idea of it. Wow, I can see there's some parallels, isn't there, about having more exposure in the media, deaf people signing on television, more people wanting to learn sign language. It's almost going in parallel, isn't it? And that's what we've wanted as a deaf community for so long, to see that really grow and expand, and really means the world becomes more accessible for us. Yes, I think the key is to create more demand. If there's more demand to learn BSL, then it will help the deaf community. I think we need to grow the demand, and really that's the aim. Absolutely. And I think really just to add to that, that I think, a perfect role model for this is Rose, because it's finally, somebody's kind of put their head above the parapet, who's got that attention, who's using BSL proudly, and she can, take the information from the deaf community about the culture, etc., and really put that in the forefront. And we'll be behind her 100%. So really, Rose is the key for us, and we just really appreciate her giving up her time and really focusing on deaf issues and campaigning and making hearing audiences more aware. Wow, I'd agree with that. So Rose, tell me about the documentary. Old hands, new tricks. Okay, so really the idea came from, I wanted to create a documentary to promote more awareness about the lack of care for deaf BSL users, when they get older. I mean, there isn't enough care homes. There's only two in the whole of the UK. And I just felt that that wasn't right. So, obviously I talked, to some creators and said, look, this is my idea. Why don't we teach a retirement village? The retirement village is lovely. People live in their own kind of independent flats, but they come down to the more communal areas, and they've got lounge areas, they can play games, they do bingo, they've got a cafe there, they can play pool, they do woodwork. And I thought, wow, where's something like this for deaf people? There just isn't anywhere. So I thought, hang on a minute, if we taught them to sign, I thought sign language would really help these hearing people that have become deaf. So it's not just about coming there and just teaching them. That was the aim, to really bring sign language to them. To be honest with you, when I watched the programme, I thought, why has nobody thought of this before? Because so many people know that when we become older, it's very common that people lose their hearing. I think it's a very high percentage of people. I think it's over 70% or something. And then that links into my question really about, when we do become older, most old people, give up learning new things, don't they? They think, oh, my life's over, I'm too old to learn something new. But what you did is actually show that, of course, you can, given the right method, you can learn new things. And how did you get Marios into this? Really, I mean, Marius is one of my favourite signers. I can even easily watch Marius all day when he's signing. He's just a beautiful signer, and he's a great teacher as well. He's got lots of energy. He's very charismatic, and so for me, it was a no-brainer. I had to have Marius in this documentary with me, and so bringing him in, I realised that I just couldn't have done it without him. It would have been impossible. Oh, thank you, Rose. I think anything to add there, Marios? Well, when Rose first approached me with this particular idea, I thought it was an amazing idea. I thought, yes, this is brilliant. This is what we needed, somebody to, trailblaze this and say, this is what we need to do. So she told me about her vision, about obviously, addressing the isolation of elderly people in a care home. And we looked around and we thought, there's a retirement village here, and lots of them actually had become quite isolated and felt left out from the larger group. And we thought, well, deaf people feel like that all the time, but they felt like that because they'd become deafened. Some maybe had a brain injury or, had issues with the muscles in their throat and couldn't speak anymore. And we were really encouraging them, to use sign language. So Rose and I said, look, how are we going to address this group of elderly people? We need to make it fun. We need to kind of maybe take them out on some trips within the deaf community. And, so they'd have, be more energised and appealed and want to come to the classes regularly. We made it especially perfect for them, but what's really exciting is they're still continuing to learn signing now. Even though the documentary and the filming has finished, they want to get their qualification. So this is amazing. Well, that was going to be my next question, actually. The question was, are they still carrying on? Yes, they are. And when I was watching them, I noticed that, those that had struggled with like numbers or, I think just through the 6 weeks, I mean, it was so hard. How did you adapt your teaching methods, to get all of that crammed in 6 weeks? And also, in 1 week, I mean, how many hours were they learning for? They were learning every day for 6 weeks. But I think what was interesting, I think that, we thought they'd struggle more with finger spelling than with numbers. We thought, oh, numbers is easy. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was wrong. Actually, they got the finger spelling really well, but the numbers is something they really struggled with, and I just couldn't understand why that was. I mean, I still don't know. I don't understand why. Marios is saying, I think maybe it's linked to maybe if they had arthritis, but hang on a minute, they were still finger spelling, weren't they? And they got it. I don't know. I just don't know how their brains were working, but they did have difficulty with number. Another question, another thing that I noticed when I was watching it, when you were talking about the signs for emotions, some of them struggled, didn't they? There was one in particular, obviously was a hearing, person that, he'd had a bit of a facade, but when he was talking about his emotions in BSL, knowing that he had to use facial expression, he felt a little bit vulnerable to be able to expose that emotion. Did you notice that within the residents? Were they finding it difficult to express that emotion? I mean, at the very start, Rose wanted us to really draw that out of them, the emotion, the importance of facial expression, and, to really expose that within themselves. So we said, right, how are we going to do this? And at the start, it was difficult, I will say. That in the old-fashioned ways, it's all very stiff upper lip. Don't show too much expression. I think the newer generation are better at expressing emotion, and that's healthy. So as we were teaching the lessons, we were saying, no, we need more facial expressions. So we started with something that was fun. That was the way in, really. And then they were able to kind of really show their feelings and emotions, and then we started to work more closely drawing that emotion out of them, and in the end they were able to express their life journeys to us, and some of them were incredible stories, really emotional, really up and down. Some had been through some terrible times, some had had some really brilliant times, but really, life's journeys were fantastic. And we thought, wow, you've, with your facial expressions and the sign language that you've used, you've really expressed that to us. We really feel that. And, we just had that kind of empathy. I didn't think that they would influence my emotions as much as they did. I, teared up many a time during that period. It was really, really amazing. I think with BSL, I feel really lucky to know BSL. I feel it's a privilege to know the potential that it has. And I think that really sign language is the only language where you have to have eye contact. Eye contact is crucial. Hearing people can talk on the phone, you can be looking in different directions. You can be talking and listening at the same time, but you don't necessarily have to give eye contact. But with sign language, you have to have eye contact. And the first week, their eye contact was terrible. And as the weeks progressed, they realised that they had to look at me because obviously I'm using sign language. I'm doing a bit of lip reading as well. They weren't used to that. And I think that made them feel quite emotional that they were actually having to look into my eyes. Yes, that makes absolute sense. Changing that communication method, thinking about eye contact, particularly at their age where they've never had to do that maybe. I think that's a fantastic way of kind of, when they met the other deaf adults as well, I thought that was brilliant. I mean, how did you find that dynamic, bringing those two groups together? And what did you notice? I'm just curious. Obviously, the creative team behind the scenes of this documentary, we say, look, we have to bring in a deaf person to the production. So we brought in Camilla Arnold. We brought her in, and she's deaf. And it meant that we had that kind of connection with the community. So she has her kind of connection with deaf adults, deaf schools, the deaf chefs, and the deaf bingo. We thought that was really important to show parts of the deaf community. We can't talk about deaf culture without showing them deaf people. We thought that was a really important part of the documentary. And also, just to add to that, the production team at Rogan, they were brilliant. They were fantastic. They really understood deaf culture. Particularly, nearly all of them were hearing, but they were prepared to learn sign language. They were prepared to get fully involved, with the elderly people using BSL. And I thought that actually the production team did a wonderful job, and that made us feel really confident to really present this documentary. And one thing that really kind of hit me, I suppose, is one person, I think it was Sue, Abdi's wife, Trisha, yes. Trisha, I mean, the one thing that struck me about her was, obviously I was teaching BSL and I thought, oh, is she learning? Is she like, oh, can't be bothered, what's the point of this, look at me at my age, this is, but when she expressed, she said, it's helped me so much because it helped her cognitively, it helped her with her kind of processing. She said it kept her brain alive almost, that she felt young again, that she was really using her brain to learn something. And I think, because they had to work out this new language and how to sign this language, it actually kept their brain working. It really helped them, cognitively. And they said it made them feel alive and young again. And I think, wow, it just shows age is but a number. It's about how you are and your brain, and to keep your brain stimulated. Linked to that, there was one thing that I loved, and the woman said, we're like a recycled age. It means that inside I still feel young. And of course, as you get older, the external, the body becomes older, but inside you still feel young, don't you? And it's kind of like your brain's still there. It's never too late, to learn new skills or new languages. So to me, I love that element of the documentary. I thought it was brilliant. And Pam, who was very expressive, she said a quote. She said she said you can't teach old dogs new tricks. It's a very kind of hearing saying. But what she was basically saying is that old people can't learn anymore. But we've shown that you can. Absolutely you can. And that's why the BBC wanted the title, Old Hands, New Tricks, because I think that fits in beautifully. I think that fits in beautifully with the programme. I think it's a great title. I mean, how do you feel? It's going to be premiering soon, 2 parts, this Wednesday and next Wednesday. So how are you guys feeling about that? Marius, I'm really excited. I'm really excited, and the reason being is once it does go out there, it's not just for the deaf community, it's for the hearing community as well. It's for them to realise how BSL does have value and how important this language is for everybody, whether you be deaf, hard of hearing, young, old. This language has great value for everybody, and that's the thing that I'm most excited about. And I hope it has that impact and it becomes obvious from day one. It became obvious to us from day one. The transformation in the residents, I was like, wow, this is powerful. And the whole of the UK needs to see this. And it can change lives if you just learn a little bit of BSL, some basic BSL, level 1, level 2, just basic BSL. Doesn't have to be level 1 or level 2. And then on the flip side of that, that means deaf people have more access. Those hearing people that become, deaf over time, we don't want there to be more mental health issues amongst that group of people. We want to give them a tool to communicate. And actually it has huge value for life for everybody. I agree. I was really inspired just to see their attitude and the change from the beginning right to the end. You could see, the huge change in attitude. At first they were a bit reluctant, a little resistant, and then they started to feel and see the benefit. Like one benefit at a time almost, and then it became a huge benefit at the end. And I'm really glad to hear that they've carrying on with their journey of learning sign language. I mean, hoping to get their level 1 certificate. Well, hopefully, yes. I mean, it might take them a bit longer, but at the end of the day, that's the aim. They want to achieve their level 1. And I think the biggest message from this documentary is lots of people make assumptions that sign language, helps deaf people. No, it's not about poor deaf people in a patronising way. It's not about that. It's an actual language. It has huge benefits to not just us as a deaf community, but to other people too. And that's the message we want to share. I mean, linked to assumptions, one thing that I noticed, I think lots of older people have hearing aids, don't they? And I think lots of people assume that, I've got hearing aids, that's great, that means that you can become hearing like before, and that really isn't the case, is it? And I think that goes back to assumptions again. People, hearing aids doesn't then make you hearing, does it? It's just a tool. I think the problem is in society, I think we all want the quick fix, don't we? We all want things done very quickly, but actually BSL, yes, takes some time to learn, but you're using your brain. It's not when a quick fix, you're not using your brain, are you? Not challenging yourself. And I think with hearing people, I think they need to understand that hearing aids, are aids. They have their benefits. The same with cochlear implants. But bilingualism, learning that alongside sign language, giving deaf people the opportunity to do both, not just assuming they've got a hearing aid that they can just talk. Maybe they do have a hearing aid, but they prefer to sign. I think it's really important that hearing people understand that both have value. So I just want to know what you learned from the 6 weeks, from the people, from the residents themselves. I'm just curious, what did you learn from them? The biggest thing I learned is how important it is to have people around and how important community is. Whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's people that are in your lives. Not being alone, being isolated is not good for you. And I think that there was they've lived a long time, these particular residents, and they've seen more than us. And I learned so much from their life experiences. always find people around. Community, that sense of community is really important. Marios, I think when I first got into this, at the beginning of the 6 weeks and over the 6 week period, it was really about their life experiences really had a huge impact on me, and the value of that, and to appreciate your life and appreciate your life's journey. And I imagined, yeah, sign language, is for deaf people, hearing people, oh, they might learn to sign, that's great. But actually, when I saw these people that actually were hearing but really struggled because they'd lost their hearing due to old age, I thought, well, you're like us in a way. You now understand how we feel. You can empathise with how we feel in life, and how we felt left out. There's barriers in life, felt depressed. And I just thought, wow, and that kind of inspired me to not just think about, the deaf community and a deaf thing, but think about deaf, hard of hearing, those people that have lost that ability to communicate. And to made me realise that actually BSL is important for everybody. And I think their life's journey again was just beautiful. I learned so much from them. Yeah, it made me realise that I think, deaf people, we're strong, BSL users, and I think we're accepting of lots of different people, and we need to help them more, actually. We need to get out there and help them more. So, once the programme goes out, what do you want to see? More care homes delivering BSL lessons for older people? Is that the aim of this, or what's the outcome you're hoping for? I think it's giving more choice to deaf people to start off with, because look at me, what about my future when I become old, or if I have a stroke and I might need to go into, I want to be near my family. I don't want to be in a care home far away from my family. I want to be able to go to my local one. No, I understand that. I think there's only two, isn't there? Yes, there's two BSL care homes in the UK. There's only two. There's only two. Yep, that's absolutely right. There's only two. That's so sad. It is sad. I've got a few friends whose parents, grandparents, have had to go into a care home, and the frustration my friends have felt. And, the care homes don't have any deaf awareness, don't understand. These people don't have any choice. Their parents might be deaf, they put them in a care home, and the parents are suffering, and because they're suffering, their children then suffer to see their parents suffering, and all because of these barriers. And I think this documentary really shows that actually it's not just deaf people. This could be useful for all care homes if you have that kind of inclusive ideology and then use BSL, and then it means a deaf person can go to whatever deaf home they choose, and I just want people to really open up their kind of mind to that, and hopefully it will have that impact. And also my dream, and you see the village Hewingdon, it's massive. Oh, it looks amazing. I mean, imagine having a deaf only village like that. That would be just amazing. That is so funny. I had the same thoughts. I looked at it and, looked at the building and all the drone shots, and it had a hairdressers, and I just thought, oh, imagine if this just was for deaf residents and everybody was signing in here. This would just be amazing. But at the same time, going both to what you both said, the impact, hopefully, of the programme is that it makes a big statement to all people and all care homes out there, whether it be, maybe, local deaf people can mix with hearing people if they can use some sign language. If you've taught them that and there's been that dramatic change just in 6 weeks, imagine if that was rolled out across the country. It doesn't matter, if you're in a deaf care home or a hearing care home, it could be both. There would be choice if there was sign language taught. You shouldn't assume that they should only go into a deaf care home. You need, to have that choice. So hopefully it has that impact. I'm confident that it will after watching the programme. I'm sure it will do really, really well. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, I've got a couple more questions for you. I mean, you've obviously through the 6 weeks period, and then obviously, how did you feel? Because obviously you'd see them every day, the residents, over the 6 weeks period. You've built that rapport with them and that relationship. Obviously you've changed their lives, you've changed their outlook, their thought processes, as you've mentioned, their perspective. Do you feel that you've left them in good hands? It's almost like I want more. I want to see more. It was so emotional for me. It's kind of, how did it feel for you? When we were filming, we knew we had a huge responsibility because ultimately, we were kind of filming them, giving them hope, giving them lots of attention. It was very exciting for 6 weeks. It was all very new for them. And then when we stopped filming and we left, that would be quite cruel. And we wanted to ensure that there was some legacy there, that, once the filming had stopped, that we weren't finished with the people, that we still would engage with them. When I left, I cried my eyes out. I had to say, because I was busy and had another job to go to, but I'm definitely going to be popping in and having cups of tea with them, which is going to be great. Will you be going with her, Marios? Well, I'm flying off, but next week, so it won't be next week, but also, when we finished the kind of documentary and we stopped filming, I did feel really emotional, and I wasn't expecting that either. I did feel, because we did have real connections, real human connections, and they shared so much of their life experience with us that I thought that, wow, I did feel a bit heartbroken when we stopped filming. Last year, I revisited, and it was lovely to see them again, and they were like, oh, Marios, hello. But at the same time, I was sad. I think 2 of the residents had passed away, that were in my class, and that was, that kind of broke my heart a little bit, and I just thought, it kind of really touched me, and thought, wow, what a privilege to have taught them, and then they're gone now. But obviously you have to keep going with life and remain positive. But, there's one particular lady that works there. We keep in touch via text message. And I always say, how are they doing? Make sure they're keeping up their signing, etc., etc. That's really good. A question for you now, Rose. One particular scene, I'm not sure if you can explain it. Marios mentioned, I think there was 2, but there was one particular lady, and she happened to have passed away, and her family sent you a letter or something, or explaining more about that. I mean, that had a huge impact on me. The letter, she'd learned some signing, and we knew that she wasn't well. She had some health issues, but she was so committed. She came to every class. She really enjoyed it, and apparently, when she was almost passing away, she had to have a tube because she couldn't, which means she couldn't speak at all. And she actually used sign language with her family as her last words. And the letters from the family were saying, because we had taught her sign language, she was able to communicate with the family right at the very end. I mean, it gives me goosebumps even now just talking about it. The same here. Imagine just in 6 weeks, the impact. I mean, it's sad to say that obviously, that was the end of her life, but the fact that she could communicate with the family through something, that she just learned in 6 weeks, I mean, doesn't that just prove what a huge impact BSL can have in people's lives? Yeah, it was a real emotional journey, it was. And when you're making a documentary with a group of people, and Marios were part of their life until the end. And we know that they're older. So we almost felt like it was a real privilege, actually, to be a part of their lives at this point in their lives. I'm sure it's going to be an experience both of you will never forget. When I watched it, I wanted, talking about the characters, I want to say more. I know their names already, but I don't want to say too much. I don't want to have any spoilers because it's really important that people do watch this. It's coming out on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Is that right? Yes, 9 o'clock, BBC One. And you are able to watch it on iPlayer as well. Okay, well, I just want to say a huge thank you to you both for your time, and you've made a huge impact, guys, and I just can't wait for everybody to see it. And hopefully after this, there's some recognition in the newspaper, in the media, and really that message gets out there and people do realise that sign language is not only for deaf people. It's for everybody. You know, let's break the stigma, break the taboo. Let's do that. That's the aim. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. It's lovely to see you both. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.